been out and about, folks, and I do love my spinner baits and spinners. I'm always picking up new ones or old ones that I had that I lost. So here we go. Come check it out. Some I've never fished before, and some are tried and true killers. Let's get at it.
Well, howdy, folks. You have stumbled upon new old school fishing. Was out and about, finding things at yard sales, flea markets, some of my own old stuff. Dug it out. Antique stores, thrift shops. It's addictive. But thought I'd show you some, when you want to catch a fish. Yeah, it's fun to throw all these other things, and they catch fish too. We're doing really well on them. But if you really want to catch a fish, chuck you a spinnerbait. You fish it anywhere. And the spinner, I don't know if I got any spinners sitting here or not. Let's see none. But spinner baits. Let's get at it. This one, I believe, is from Northland Tackle. Steady that. That's kind of the point of being on the table here. This one's called a Slurpee. It's a fish catcher. I think you can still buy these. Not positive, but if you come across them, grab them. It says Slurpee right on the blade there. Yeah. Caught some fish. Yeah, some of my kayak shoes. Caught some fish on them. Something you can go to, you know you're going to catch fish. Or at least you're going to beat the snot out of that tail. Just get some action. Now, one we kind of made up. Mr. Twister. Double tail. Now this is kind of a rig job. Probably a Northland head on there. Jig head with a Mr. Twister. Orange and brown double tail. At least that's what we use. They got lots of colors, I'm sure. You got your black's good, white, chartreuse. But that's the one we usually grab. And I put it on a harness, probably like a Redfish Magic harness or something like that. And then probably Northland, I'm not sure. It came from a Gander Mountain, I know that. These blades. And probably Gander Mountain spinnerbait blade. And hooked it all together, and I mean, you want to catch you a fish? Chuck that out there. Nothing else. The little guys will keep you awake. Same thing. Pulling on that tail. I like that. I found some of these old things that come along. Check it out. I have not fished this yet, folks. This is, I believe, a bomber. Yep, bomber lures. Bushwhacker. I think it's called a bushwhacker. Double blade, weedless spinnerbait. Definitely retro, old school, antique. Well, not antique, but definitely retro. Bomber bushwhacker. Just sounds like it'd catch a fish, don't it? We're gonna catch some. Put it on the show. Here, I don't know if you can get these guys anymore. Now this one's been, probably put the orange and black skirt on it. The blade, I guess that's pretty much the original blade. This is from a company called Wasp. W-A-S-P, Wasp. Yeah, like the suckers that sting you. And they made up these spinner baits. Done really well with them. But this one is actually a Bagley switchblade. So I've taken the Wasp blade and put it on a Bagley switchblade, which is one of the reasons they made these things. So you can switch them out. The spring slides forward. I had trouble doing this last time I was doing street net, which is kind of good because you don't want that sucker to fly out. Anyway, that spring slides forward, and you can take the blade off, switch it out with something else. Bagley switchblade. And you can tell when you run across them by that big loop, because that allows you to not only switch this blade out, but slide that clevis up, and you can see I've put a different blade there. Probably another one of those gander mountain blades I got a hold of over the years. And it rig-jobbed me up a pretty cool spinnerbait. Between Wasp, Bagley, Gander Mountain, and probably got that skirt of Gander Mountain too. They ain't around anymore, at least not around where we live. Used to be a whole bunch of them. Gander Mountain says. But that's another beauty of spinnerbaits. You can take this part, put it with that part, with the other part. It'll catch fish. I know, because I've caught fish on that. Here is a retro one, an old one. I'm having trouble remembering who made that. Let's see here. This is an aggravator. Just what you need. Well, you want to aggravate the fish, so I don't hit it. It's an aggravator. Not sure who makes that. If you know, put it down in the comments. Who makes the aggravator? This is right on the blade, aggravator. But it don't say what company. Here is a Wasp spinnerbait that is still on the original body. And this is usually what I grabbed with these guys. They were at this really light willow blades on them. It's a light spinner head on it. Spinnerbait head. And probably, it's not 3/8 of an ounce, maybe a 1/4 ounce, something like that. And man, have I caught some nice fish on those. Made by a Wasp. Prism Image, which I imagine this started out as like chartreuse and I painted orange on it. So most of them I got were like a perch. Oh, there's one. I can show you. The ones I did really well with. Fire target perch. Yeah, I know you've seen me use fire target perch on a bunch of things. Here I'm shaking again. Hold it steady, Dusty. Prism Image by Wasp. Haven't seen Wasp company around in a long time. But these guys are something else. And even once the fish knocked that fancy finish off of there, Sharpie markered it back on, still catch fish now. Did you catch as many? Not quite sure, but they still worked. Wasp. You ever run across them? Snatch them up, they work. They're good. Definitely retro. Probably bought that spinnerbait right there 30 years ago, maybe 35 years ago. Yeah. But luckily, I did well with them and I went back and bought the rest of them. So I still have some. Gold. Old school gold. Hoarded in the safe. Not really, but sometimes it feels like you ought to. Here, I guess you'd say more retro because this is a Terminator. You know, titanium. Hard to imagine that those are retro now. Terminator spinnerbaits, but it has this hybrid blade on it. That's what it's called. A hybrid blade. I had to find that out because I couldn't remember. I call it the lawnmower lure because looks like you left it in the yard and whacked it with the lawnmower, don't it? Because who the heck would do that on purpose? But I tell you what, catches fish on the top. Now, it's not quite as weedless as a regular buzzbait. This hook deal on the end, if there's some kind of floating weeds, not weeds that are hooked at the bottom, but weeds that are just floating around because they got ripped loose by boats or whatever, you do get caught up in that. But sometimes this is the deal. Now, we go fishing in Canada, And I got a lot of tricks, I got a lot down. But one time I went up there and I was getting hits on this very lure, but I couldn't hook up. Have it on for a little bit, get off. Oh, I get hit, I'm up and blow up on it. Tried a whole bunch of other things. My friend in the boat caught a couple fish, and I just couldn't hook up. So he spotted some minnows jumping out of the water. He pointed it out to me. He chucked over there, didn't get nothing. So this is what I had on, so chucked it over there. Huge bass. Comes up, I mean, you're talking 5-6 pounder. Comes up, whoom, and just as he starts loading up, you know, you can feel it loading up on the rod, out it came. And I mean, I got about 2.5 liters of a 4-liter word out. Huge pike comes in and snatches it right after the bass lost it. I caught one fish all day. Like a 3-foot pike. Boy, how your day can turn around. I weighed 10 pounds, 12 pounds, something like that. Don't know, I don't do a scale a lot of we measure things. But it makes a heck of a racket. And sometimes the craziest times you would think the fish are too, like bluebird day, sunny, those fish just, they get turned up, it's too warm, it's too bright out. I guess this is just kind of a come along and tick them off. Sure saved my boy that memory of doing that one day. So when it's a tough day like that because of those kind of conditions, chucking this thing down, put the whoop on, you cook it all day. Catch your fish. Sometimes it'll save your dang day. Hybrid blade, Terminator. I don't know how many of them they sold. Luckily, because it works so well, I went and bought. I got 4 of them, I guess. And some of them I painted up. That's straight up like it came out of the package. This guy, and this is what I probably caught the pike on. It's red and yellow. Dinged up, you can see the teeth marks. Painted him up in red and yellow, but originally coming out of the package, chartreuse and white, gold blade on it. I don't think they offered a bunch of colors or anything. Got a little bit of red on the tuff. It's titanium. Yeah. I don't think I've lost one yet or broke one. So that's the deal. Doctored up by Dusty one, which is probably the one that caught that big pike. Pretty dang cool. All kinds of cool stuff. I call it the lawnmower lure. Here is one made by the people that make the Okie Bug. I used to have an Okie Bug, but I guess I lost it. Gonna have to get me another. This is called the Gator Bug. Just got these not too long ago. Haven't fished them, so I'm gonna give that a whirl. Basically, the idea is most of your spinner baits are solid hooked right on there. That's stiff wire, right? This guy, it is got a double hinged, double jointed. So when this sucker goes through the water, a lot more action going on, a lot more different kind of vibration. Go and catch fish, no doubt. Plus, comes from the people to make the Okie Bug. Definitely a fish catcher. Gator Bug. We catch fish, we can put on show. We have one called Redfish Magic. Basically for catching redfish, but I've never caught a redfish on. Hundreds of fish I've caught on Redfish Magic. But basically similar as it's just a single joint. Instead of being stiff, it just has that single joint. That has 2 places it can wiggle back and forth. The Redfish Magic, just the one where the harness hooks on. Kind of like a jig head. And of course, the body that comes with it eventually melts or gets weird, like a lot of rubber things do. So we replace them with baby bass or sunfish or something like that. Or twister worms and fish them that way. So the gator bug should be similar to that. Here's one. Now I've done several shows using this. Probably this very lure. This came from a Gander Mountain. And I mean, oh man. 30, 35 years. And as you can tell by that skirt, it's seen a better day. Now this is not the kind of skirt you slide on and off. It's actually wired on there with a brass wire. And this rubber is seriously munch. You kind of have to break it apart. Like even now, it sticks together and you got to break it apart. Now I could cut these off, cut that wire, put a different skirt on there. But a lot of people would find this in their tackle, chuck it in the trash, or at least chuck it back in that box, or you chuck everything else that got a little mungy. But I think partly this thing is working because that old skirt is munged up, which slows this whole thing down, which it originally is a slow spin. It's big. This is a big full skirt on here like a jig. And big full skirt. I guess I better drink something. That's better. Get a little energy too. But I keep fishing these because originally I was going to change the skirts when I discovered this. And you forget. Every day. Forget stuff. And then I'd get out there and like, oh, I forgot to change skirts. And I would pry these all apart. Go like that with them, pry them all apart, and chuck it. Now, if you go to, if you're on the computer, you can, or the phone, you can touch the screen, the bar will come up, go to the little round icon with my thumb bandaged up. Hit that, go to channel, go to check out these lures. And I think I just call this Gander Mountain lure. And some days, and I mean rough days, I mean it's chilly, you got a lot of stuff on because it's chilly, the fish are a little lethargic. But because that skirt's all mungy like that, that helps you slow this thing down. And that one single blade, yeah, there's another little blade there, but that blade just go around real slow. And I call it the donut. You're like, what? I look like a donut? Well, my point is, you're not thinking about having a donut. Somebody comes by with a plate of donuts, you're trying to keep an eye on your weight. You're not really hungry, you're not thinking about a donut. You let it go by. Bowl of chips, whatever. But if somebody comes along and they keep setting that plate down in front of you, or they keep lingering, or they're eating it and talking to you, or talking to the person next to you, and they setting the box down for everybody. Next thing you know, you got a donut. Well, that's what I call this. It's like somebody hung a donut on a string and hung it in front of you. And you weren't thinking about having it, but if it sits there long enough, give me that. And I think that's what's happening with this. That skirt is good, all mungy, and I got a bunch of them like this, and they're all mungy like that. And now that I've thought that out, and maybe that's slowing it down. Maybe you shouldn't be so quick to chuck these things out or to change them out. At least leave a couple of them mungy, because maybe that'll slow you down enough. And I mean slow, like you're swimming a jig. I mean that blade is just barely going around. And boom! And you can turn a day that would be slow fishing, which I can usually tell because Jason's fishing in the other end of the boat. Or I've been fishing with other guys, same thing. You let that thing go down, you just tick across the top of the weeds, really slow, I mean. And because it's messed up, it's easier to slow it. And man, I mean, I got a video just on this, and you can tell it's a dark day. It's a day, and I mean, turned a day that would be normally for most guys a bad day. Just hard to raise a fish. And I think we made 2 shows out of that day because I was catching so many fish on that. Yep, right. Leaving that in my tackle box. Piece of crap. Don't be so quick to choke things. That's a different kind of weird rubber. I don't know who supplied them things to Gander Mountain, but kind of like people buy them old wiggle warts because they weren't quite right. And they hunt around a little bit more than normal. Well, this one, this stick together mungy skirt, slows the thing down, which makes me slow down. Boom! So you're reeling in fish and you're happy. I know, I get carried away. Gotta love it. I love having these things or buying these things or that. Holy smokes, it gotta be 30, 35 years ago I bought those. In Gander Mountains, I don't see them around anymore. Guess they're gone. What else we got? Ooh. G-fish. This is kind of a cross between a crankbait and a spinnerbait. Yeah, kind of cool. Called G-fish. Let's see here. G got G's all over it. I can find out who made that. I should know that. If you know, put it down in the comments because Dusty has forgotten. Is that Ripple? Ripple made that? I don't know. If you know, put it down in the comments for me and anybody else that's watching. Because it's a G-finish. My brain's saying Rebel. That don't mean it's right. Got a rattle in it, I think. Yep. Got a rattle in there. And pretty cool. Now, I've never fished one of these before, so we're going to give it a whirl, but I bet you that's going to catch fish. Almost like a rocket shad or something. But bigger. And a rattle. So, imagine as that thing undulates along, and that's a pretty long arm on that sucker, too. Gonna catch this fish, we're going to put it on the show. Here's one. I'm having a... Should have wrote all this stuff down. This one's called a dirty bird. Is that a bomber? Bomber make dirty birds? Not quite sure. This is a redfish magic harness. We use these for a while because the original minnow weight or weight and chartreuse or brown was another one like a root beer color. They were out, but it says redfish magic right on the blade. And I mean, we catch a lot of fish on these things because once that rubber fish gets mungy and melts and gooey, and we put them on other things. So I put on this dirty bird. I haven't fished it yet. That's going to catch fish. That's going to catch a fish. Thinking bomber. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. I learned this stuff, and what my mom used to say, in one ear, out the other. Now it rattles around for a while, and then it falls out. Dirty bird. You could just fish that probably just like it is, or you can put it. I put that spinner harness on. It makes it a spinnerbait. It has a weed guard. Gonna catch fish on that. No doubt. What else we got? Well, this one's definitely a rebel because it says it all over the blades. like a triple spinner. Got 3 blades on it by Rebel. And it also has a swivel hooked right to the spinnerbait, like where you would normally tie on to if you're into that. Which I like this because I use leaders a lot because of the pickerel and the pike muskies that we fish around. Hate losing these things. And I don't really find that it stops the fish from biting. Now, if you put a leader on a rubber worm and fished it real slow, I imagine the fish would be like, nah. But something cruising along, that crazy Rebel triple bladed, you know, I bet you it's got a special name. Destroyer, I think. I think it's called a destroyer. If I'm wrong about that, feel free to correct me down in the comments. And comments actually help the channel anyway, so feel free to correct me. And I'm not looking to be monetized or anything like that. I just would like these things to get shown to people. And so Mr. Algorithm will leave them up so you can click on it. Because it's like the old cartoon. You got the hook on the pole, yank you right off the stage. So yeah, get some activity, like, subscribe, comment, it helps. So they'll leave it up where you can find it and watch it. I think that's called a destroyer. Yeah, it took a while for that to rattle around in my brain. Ding! Catch fish, but not always the brightest guy in the world. And I can't even blame it on old age. This one, I know what this is called. This is Cotton Cordell's Spring Killer. The old Cotton Cordell, another one of them guys. Come out with all kinds of cool stuff. There's a spring on there. Yeah. On there. I have another one, Spring Bill, I think it's called. Kind of like that Dirty Bird, only it's rigged up like this with this. And I imagine that gives that sucker quite the vibration. Now, I haven't colored it up or anything because I just got the one. And white and silver sometimes is the deal. As much as I love all my crazy colors. Sometimes white and silver is the deal. Cotton Cordell, got all over the blades. I love these guys that put stuff all over the place. Cotton Cordell. Spring Killer. I don't know about that. Hope it's Spring Catcher. That would be great. And it came, this actually is not rubber twister tail. It's something that came on there. It's like a nylon fabric. Curly tail. There's a trailer. Came right with the lure. And I got it somewhere. The package was really mungy. It just fell right out. Package wasn't worth saving. But never been used. Gonna catch something on it. Put it on the show. Here. Who the heck make? Oh, Man's Bait Company, and boy, I'm having a tough day today. Hank Parker come up with this deal. Undulator. Alright, brain's working now. Called undulator. It wasn't this color, this is a Sharpie marker. But instead of it, now I have fished this. I haven't actually got one in the boat yet, but they've come up after it because they're like, what the heck? It doesn't really spin around like a regular spinnerbait. It more undulates along like it's called it. Undulates along and occasionally flops this way, that way. That's a different kind of deal. It's Hank Parker. Man, I'm going to keep chucking it. We're going to catch something. And you'll see probably on one of my shows if you go to some of my older shows that I've used it And sometimes this calls them up. I know I've got that in some shows. This calls them up. Boom. And I pick up that other rod with that Gander Mountain spinnerbait on it. Boom! It works for me. If he'll just call fish up, I can catch them on something else. That works for me. Kind of like when you're throwing a buzz bait. Something blows up on it and you pick up your worm rod, throw the worm out there, catch your fish. Not always, but sometimes you just need to get them to show themselves. And old man's undulator. Pretty cool deal. Just wacky enough. It just makes you, sometimes lures just make you smile. Now, is that actually a good fish catcher? We're going to find out. Or is that just some wacky thing Hank Parker came up with? Having a few beers with Tom Man beats me. But both knew how to catch fish. Hank Parker's still at it. Stanley. I mean, these Stanley spinnerbaits really got the vibration thing going on. Not quite as tough as some other spinnerbaits, but that vibration they got going on, they do a tapered shaft. This is thicker here, thinner at this end. Gives you a better vibration. They also have a wedge blade on a lot of their spinnerbaits. This one is called Rainbow Glitter. I just picked up an orange and black one. But I've done well with this fire tire. Rainbow Glitter. Stanley vibrating spinnerbait. Now, they do have a weakness. It's this thin wire at the end. Now, when you're just dealing with bass, let's see if I, there we go, on my brown shirt. You see that little loop there? Sometimes if you watch my other shows, or I'm sure I'll be using it again, any show, this gets broke off. Usually in the boat, luckily. And you'll see some of mine don't have that loop anymore because I've had to reattach this big blade by bending what's left of the wire around and hooking it back on. And sometimes I'll switch out the blades when that happens. And but they catch fish. I mean, boom. Sometimes that's the vibration they want. It's not like anything, it's not like all the time. Sometimes that's what they want. And I mean, I've caught a lot of fish on that. And I mean, I got a lot of different versions of Stanley fiber shaft spinnerbaits and the wedge blades. Stanley really took the time to fine tune these things, get that vibration just so. And you know, like anything, some days that's the deal. Even if it gets beat up and broke, get you out another. Blades, and like I said, didn't really seem to affect it. Breaks off. Usually that thing's laying in the boat, luckily. Usually because it's in the net or banging around the bottom of the boat when the fish is flopping around. And you just bend it back around and don't think, oh, it's not going to work now. Seems to still work, so. Okay. One of my go-tos, Stanley Viber Shaft. Pretty dang cool. Oh, there's a spinner here. Rooster tail. Want to catch your fish? Old rooster tail. Now most rooster tails are trout size. Panfish trout size. This one is probably ½ ounce. Pretty heavy. And I think it was yeller and black. And I did Sharpie marker orange on this one. I think one I left it yeller with some red dots on it and the black. Worked good. And I put the mustad weedless trouble. Did good with it. Now with the little fish, sometimes that doesn't work out so great. But big fish doesn't make a difference. They just chomp on that and those wires are clean out of the way. And really That's the ones you don't want to lose, right? The big ones. And you can chuck this thing, as soon as you do that, chuck it right through the lily pads, where you throw a spinnerbait. I do it on my spoons too. Work good. Old rooster tail. You want to catch your fish, put you on a spinner. Rooster tail or a Meps or something like that. Check this guy out. What you say? What the deal? This works good. Look at that thing. Drawing a blank again. What the heck is this thing called? Oh, Assassinator. Gotta go remember that. The Assassinator spinnerbait. You know, you can go, like I said, like you're on watching your TV, take the remote, click up on the up button on that cross button. Just hit the up button, you'll come up, you'll see the line come across with my circle with my thumb. Click on that, go to channel, go to playlists. Check out these lures. This is in quite a few shows. What happens is this crazy deal spins along, and it looks pretty much like a spinnerbait. It's going along back there. Every once in a while, these blades are about the same size. Sometimes I put a smaller one on the bottom, and that bottom blade comes up and hits that top blade. Goes from doing this to like you hit a log or something, or you hit a branch, boom, boom, or a rock. Boom. You know how that sometimes gets a strike? This sucker's doing it on its own. You know, it goes along, and all of a sudden that one kicks, boom, boom. And you got a fish. Like those special effects. Now I got some that I switched out the blades on them because I bought a whole bunch, well, maybe 4 of them in old packages, and this is the best of the bunch, so I left it. The others, the skirts were a little messed up and the blades were a little corroded, and but they work. Now they are not as good as a regular spinnerbait as far as the weeds, because the weed can get caught right there. But I don't find that happens very often. And I mean, they work. And I mean, seriously work good. Assassinator. Quite the deal. I mean, some of this old school stuff, this retro stuff. Let me drink again. Seriously good. Because that's just like what you're trying to do with a spinnerbait. You're trying to get it to hit that branch, or you're twitching the rod, or you're hitting the rock with it, the dog. It's doing it on its own. It's going along for a while, and then that one blade, this blade comes, just gets knocked off enough to hit the other blade. Boom. Assassinator. Check it out. I think it's called the Assassinator 2. I think the Assassinator just looks like a regular spinnerbait. But the Assassinator 2. Pretty cool. If you can get a hold of them, grab them. Worth it. Gives that fish a little different look. Because a lot of times that's what makes them bite. It's a little change in the action. That's why bumping the dock, bumping the branch, bumping the rock works. Or twitching the rod. Sucker's doing the work for you. And occasionally you gotta get a weed off of there. It's not very often. Very impressed. Seriously retro, probably wasn't something that did really well because I don't remember seeing them. You're probably going, what? Assassinator 2. Sounds like a Schwarzenegger movie, don't it? out pretty cool. And I have lots more spinnerbaits. But there's some that I have recently found, haven't fished yet. You know, yard sales, flea markets, thrift shops. Some I dug out of my old stuff and fixed them up. Some have been around. Some we're gonna catch stuff on them. We're gonna put it on the show. So stay tuned. So thank you for coming along. Hope you enjoyed this. I do. I enjoy seeing what people find and what they come up with. And what they've got in their old tackle box that they should get out and fix it. And thank you so much. You folks have a great day.
Well, here they are all spread out for you folks. All the stuff I was showing you. Man, I love my spinnerbaits. When you need to catch a fish, get you a spinner or spinnerbait out. That'll get her done.